more than 40 hectares, Central MOEFCC, New Delhi, in consultation with Forest Advisory Committee. These are the agencies. There are two major requirements before going for the forest clearance. One is that certification from state government or collector for Gram Sabha resolution regarding settlement or compliance of Forest Right Act 2006. Forest map with highlighted identified portion of the proposed forest land also. And stage 1 forest clearance, I will talk about the stage 1 forest clearance. It is given in the two stages. Stage 1 is basically an in principle approval. A Form A with required documents to be submitted to the nodal officer of state government administration. Nodal officer obtain inspection report from the divisional forest officer. They are the ground people. They will give the actual details of the forest involved. And nodal officer through principal chief conservator of forest send the proposal to state government authority along with this recommendation. Then approval of stage 1 forest clearance will be given by the depending on the area, like up to 40 hectares, regional office of MOEFCC based on the recommendation of REC in consultation with MOEFCC New Delhi. And if it is more than 40 hectares, then New Delhi based on the recommendation of the Forest Advisory Committee. In the stage 1 forest clearance, there are some stipulations are mentioned. That is deposition of net present value. That is depending on the legal status and density of the forest, and deposition of money for compulsory afforestation. Compulsory afforestation shall be done over equivalent area of known forest land. Validity of stage 1 forest clearance is 5 years, and till that time, until we get the stage 2 clearance, we cannot start construction activities. And 5 years is given to complete all above mentioned tasks. Stage 2 forest clearance is the formal approval. And compliance report of the submitted stipulated condition of stage 1 forest clearance to the regional office of MOEFCC or MOEFCC New Delhi through state government authority, and having a documentary evidence about the deposition of funds, compliance of stage 1 stipulated condition, compliance of Forest Right Act 2006, compulsory afforestation related issues. Here I am using the word issues. I want to share one experience of Banswara side. Banswara is located on the Mahi River dam banks in Rajasthan. See, initially that document was submitted to MOEFCC, which says there is a availability of black bucks. And when the document has come back to the DFO, he has not agreed for that thing. But black buck is the same Salman Khan wala. So abhi that is not there. So there was a mismatch between the documents. So our people might have referred the wrong documentation, and it has caused further delay in getting that stage 1 clearance, because there was a mismatch. Then I have to submit a regret letter saying that it was by mistake or by wrong source the details have been gathered. So based on the status of compliance on stipulated condition of stage 1 forest clearance, regional office of MOEFCC or MOEFCC New Delhi accord for stage 2 forest clearance, and accord of stage 2 forest clearance involves transfer of proposed forest land to project proponent on lease basis for a certain period. However, legal status of forest land remain unchanged. Now, some sites are located near national park or wildlife sanctuary. There it is in the vicinity. At Kaga, which is in the Western Ghat, Uttar Kannada district of the Karnataka state, it is having Dandeli Tiger Reserve. Although it is a brown site, 4 units are already in operation, but still NPCIL has to go for obtaining the wildlife clearance, and the application has been submitted and it is under process. The project involving diversion of land of the protected area like sanctuary or national park requires recommendation of standing committee of National Board of Wildlife. under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, followed by the approval of Honorable Supreme Court. Here, I will like to tell importance given about that wildlife sanctuary and national park. See, state level wildlife board is to be chaired by Chief Minister of the state. National level, National Board of Wildlife committee to be chaired by Prime Minister, and the final clearance has to be obtained from Honorable Supreme Court, because there is an order exists of dated 13/11/2000 from the Supreme Court of India, which says final clearance has to be obtained from Supreme Court only. Now coming to the, so these are the various clearances are mentioned, which are normally we used to take from the environment point of view. About environment management plan, already Deepaji has given very detailed information, but some key points I would like to highlight here. The summary of the potential impacts of the proposal, then description of recommended mitigation measures, description of monitoring program to ensure compliance with the relevant standards, impacts, allocation of resources and responsibility for plan implementation, implementation schedule and reporting procedure, contingency plan when impacts are greater than expected as per the outcome of the quality assessment, and the detailed disaster management plan. See, for a nuclear facility, we used to prepare our emergency on-site and off-site emergency preparedness plan. So this disaster management plan of nuclear facility should consider all possible scenarios that may arise, situation like accident, natural calamities like earthquake, tsunami, or war-like situation. An on-site and off-site emergency preparedness plan should be the part of DMP for nuclear power plant. Now, before switching over to the construction phase, when actually our construction phase start with the first pour of concrete, we need to go to State Pollution Control Board and obtain consent to establish. And during construction period, all this thing we have to regularly submit that EMP. We have to ensure implementation of EMP and the stipulation given in the various clearances, and submission of the routine reports as specified in the document, and renewal of clearances if required. Once construction phase is likely to be completed, then ONF is formed and operation activity has to be commenced. For taking up the operation activity, before starting our commissioning activity, we need to obtain consent to operate from State Pollution Control Board. And there are certain acts like Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, ARP and CP Act 1981, Hazardous and Other Waste Management and Transboundary Movement Rule 2016, or Biomedical Waste Management Rule 2016, E-Waste Management Rule 2016, and EPA Rules 1986 and amendment thereafter. All this thing what we are maintaining, that ensuring the compliance, same as to during construction stage, same need to continue in the operation stage also, and activities are the similar. Now, environment management tool for NPPs. An environment management system is a set of processes that enables an organization to reduce its environmental impact and operating efficiencies. It includes the organizational structure, planning and resources for developing, implementing and maintaining policy for environmental protection. And it is an important tool which follows the systematic approach of planning, implementing, evaluating compliance for pollution prevention and improving environmental performance. The effectiveness of the system is regularly audited by internal and external audit team and reviewed by the Apex committee at the station level. At the end, I will like to say about NPCIL, how we are managing this compliance in a systematic manner. To manage environment aspect associated with NPPs, NPCIL has formed corporate environment policy in line with National Environment Policy of Government of India. And next one is that environment management system in line with ISO 14001 and occupational health and safety management system in line with ISO 18001 standards are effectively implemented at all operating stations of NPCL and are certified by the accredited agency. I try to cover which I have experienced during my tenure for new project clearances. Thank you for patience hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind address and adding some valuable insights. It is our proud privilege to present to you with a memento, a small memento as a token of appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to extend a welcome to Mr. Anand Menon, Head QHSSE, Pioneer Engineering International Limited, Republic of Azerbaijan. Anandji is going to address us on environmental impact and risk assessment in environmental operations control in oil sector. Anandji is qualified in applied chemistry, MSc, MBA, PGDMB, NEBOS, IGC, PTLLS, LSGB. Anandji specializes in quality, occupational health, safety, security, and environment. We welcome you, sir, and request you to broaden our perspective on the subject.
Can you, first of all, thank you to the ICS and its team for having such a, organizing such a value-added environmental week celebration throughout, which is a global event itself. I also take the opportunity to give a big thank you to Dr. Sudesh Sharmaji, who happens to be my mentor in various discussions and especially to the integrated management system. He helped me out throughout the implementation during my career in the industries, both in the chemical industries as well as in oil and gas industry. I was hearing the last three speakers here, and my around 20 to 30% of the subject is already covered by them. But still, this subject is so vast, even 24 hours is very small to cover up. So I took the oil and gas industry scenario on the environmental prospects and try to in a very short run of time, I'll try to cover no maximum thing what we are facing. Certain things which I mentioned over in the slides, it's based on my pure experiences when I used to work in the offshore oil and gas fields over the Atlantic Ocean, and also my experiences with the overseas in the CIS regions. And basically, I will be not only talking about India perspective point of view, I'll be talking in a global perspective point of view over the environment. As you all know, that oil and gas industry now it's a vast, it's throughout the globe. If you run from the Alaska to Australia or from Peru to Japan, even from Arctic to desert areas in Africa or in the Middle East, or even typical rainforest areas in Brazil or woodland in Mandu to offshore, the oil and gas industry is spread across it. Okay, and even the exploitations of the oil and gas industry itself shows a big impact in the environmental conditions by way of having some oil spillages, accidents of fires, okay, which results into the major air and water pollutions. Now, the interesting things which comes up recently is the social impact of the operating the oil and gas industry also, which affect the communities across the remote locations, especially when we are working on the onshore activities. Uh, the industry itself working towards the environmental protections by having the latest technologies. Every day is a challenging day for the oil and gas industry. Latest know-how is coming. Procedures are changing each and every day to minimize the impact of the environmental situations. Not only environmental, it's on the safety side also, it's on the occupational side also. Next slide, please. See, these are some pictures which I took for this is a typical exploration and production activity. You know, the first two slides in the top, you see this offshore activity. It's two different type of oil rigs. Okay, extracting, doing the drilling phase from the seabed. The bottom left-hand side picture, it's a typical production facilities. That means after the drilling activity, once the oil is got explored, now it has to be extracted from the seabed. So this is a typical production facilities installed in the offshore, okay, in the mid of the sea or in the mid of the ocean. On the right hand side bottom, it's a typical drilling rig on the land, which some of you might have witnessed, especially a lot of land rigs are available in the state of Gujarat as well as in the state of Assam. Next slide, please. Potential, I'll be talking about on the subjects impacts and what are the who are affected, and then I will later on take into the how we are doing the management of these impacts, and then what are the plan we have is getting performed by the industry. During the E&P operations of the, there are various impacts of the environment has been witnessed. These impacts depend upon the how the process is taking place, what is the size of the project, what is the land covered, what are the complexity of the project, the nature, the surrounding environment. This all is getting into the scenario to look into what are the preventive measures can be adopted over there during the complete course of the project implementation. As I said in my first slide, the new impact what we observed, especially in the oil and gas field, is the human, socio-economic, and cultural impacts. As far as my previous speaker was sharing his experiences with the demonstration of the people at the certain places. In a similar way, in the oil and gas field also, especially on the onshore, witness the certain, oppositions from the local people for doing the onshore activity, especially because when the survey was initially getting done, unfortunately, certain agricultural field also come into the scenario picture where the potential findings of the oil or gas reserves takes place. So in that scenario, there will be opposition from the farmers not to dig in their field and all sort of things. So these are the certain, these are the new thing which comes out, human, socio-economic and cultural impacts. So that's what we titled into. See, land use patterns like agriculture, fishing, logging, hunting. These are the direct consequences, or a secondary consequence by providing new access routes or leading to an unplanned settlement and exploitation of natural resources. Now, sometimes the road access also giving a problem. They will not allow us to enter into the area. New development opportunities. There is an income differentials. That's based upon the how the competent the certain local people, skilled and unskilled people, their per capita income. and say different members of the local groups benefit unevenly. That's also big challenges facing by the industry. Uh, Secondary impacts, natural resources right of access. As I said, that no, sometimes the road access to the remote locations, to the agriculture field, or sometimes it will be a big challenging task. So sometimes we have to make some temporary arrangements to reach to the field, like digging certain places and making a pavement or the road, thereby exploiting the particular land. That land might be of the agriculture use. Aesthetics appeal, as you know, it's an oil and gas industry. Lot of spills and everything might have happened. It's happening. So the sewage and the disposal, the noisy facilities will always be noisy because the motors, high HP motors, were running in the drilling rigs while doing the drilling phase of the seismic places. Uh, Coming to the atmospheric impacts, the primary source of atmospheric emissions from the oil and gas operations, like flaring, venting, and purging gases. So when we extract the gases from the field, the excess gases comes out while transferring or while transferring to the pipelines to the production facilities. So in order not to build up the pressure within the pipelines, or and as a safety precaution measures, certain gas has to be burned out. So that itself is a air pollution. So diesel engines and gas turbines is part of the operations activity. So the combustion process takes place. So the fumes which is coming out from the diesel engines, that's contributing to the air pollution. Airborne particulates from soil disturbance during the construction phase of the field. See, sometimes the loading operations of the tank, like filling some losses of the gases or the spillage of the oil or from the process equipments, that contribute to the pollution. Uh, See, from the operations, if you see the major gases, it will be carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, methane, volatile organic carbons, nitrogen oxides. I want to tell everyone here that another culprit is H2S, hydrogen sulfide, which itself is a very carcinogenic. When we are visiting to the field, and there is certain fields are demarked as a H2S field. There where we have one has to wear the mask and the appropriate PPE. And the moment, if you see, there is a more than 100 ppm gas is present in the atmosphere, there will be a small siren will be beeping out at your PPE kit itself. So these are the challenging culprit gases which evolves from the oil and gas operations. Next slide, please. Uh, Aquatic impacts. It's not only the onshore activity, it's offshore activities also takes place. So from the aqueous waste streams, from the exploration production activity, drilling fluids, cuttings and well treatment chemicals, process wash and drainage waters, spills and leakage. When we say drilling fluids and cuttings, these are the certain chemicals which used in the drilling phase for the smooth flow of the tools inside the drilling oil holes to reach the reservoir. So otherwise, what will happen is the equipment will get stuck. So there are various chemicals are used in the drilling phase. So this chemicals is itself is contributing to the environmental impacts. Okay, certain wash after pulling out of the certain tools from the hole, we have to wash the equipment. So the washing the equipment, what are the accumulations on the equipment will be there, that will be coming out of it. So that will also contributing to the aquatic impacts. Spills and leakage, without saying, It's a great impact in the oil and gas industry. Next slide, please. There are other impacts are there which is itself is a vast, and some of my previous speakers are already covered, which are in common. So, but as far as potential emergencies are concerned, which is no, as I said, spillage of fuel, oil, gas, chemicals, or other hazardous metals, well blowout. The next slide you will see the pictures of the certain impacts. So which itself is saying, the picture itself will say what it is. The fires, facilities, and surroundings. Sometimes unplanned plant gets shut down, or something goes wrong within the plant. So some pressure built up. So we have to vent out the gas. Or that sort of unplanned activities sometimes takes place. Natural disasters, sometimes the what we say, cyclone or something comes into the offshore. The offshore rig is the high risk activity that time. So sometimes there are potential chances of fire emissions or spillages into the seabed. These are the some potential environmental impacts. The top left hand side, the first picture which you see, there's a fire. Some of you might be remembering our 2005 Bombay flood, Mumbai flood. It is somewhere on July 25th. The same day, in the late evening hours, in the Bombay High North platform of ONGC, there's a big disaster happened. This picture belongs to that. That picture itself is speaking how it's giving an environmental impacts by the way of creating smoke. The spill, the already spills are taking place on the seabed from the pipelines. If you go and see the second picture, it's a disaster on the land rig. Okay, the top two is showing offshore and onshore. The bottom, you can see the air emissions from the refineries. It is one of the refineries located across the Middle East. And on the last picture on the right hand side, you can see the flare. It is the excess gas is getting burned out from the emission chimney. So that itself, you can see that the picture itself, you can see how the air pollution is getting contributed by the activities. By the way, the exploration production activities, when the drilling phase takes place, it is known as upstream. And when the distribution, the bottom pictures, you can see the distributions takes place. When I say refinery and distribution, means once the oil is got extracted and it is got produced from the seabed or from the land bed, then it has been transferred to the refinery to separate the complete crude oil into various products like petrol, diesel, kerosene, n number of solvents, and which is getting distributed. So the refinery activity and distribution of the final product is known as downstream, and that the production, the extraction, drilling, and production is known as upstream. This is just to tell you. You might be commonly seeing upstream and downstream. Next slide, please. Potential, again, the certain pictures, you can see the pollution levels from the this is the spillage on the bottom left side. It has happened near to the Thailand shore. On the top right, you can see certain pipes. These are the pipes which are used in the drilling phase to run into the hole. And in each pipe, you can see at the end of the pipe, there is a thread. Okay, this thread is covered with a dope. It's a dope. When I say dope, it is a chemical activity. On the right hand side, you can see a brown color application you can see on the thread, that is a dope that has to be applied. Okay, so once it is applied and it's run in the hole, and when the pipes are pulled out, this dope has to be cleaned out. Eh, and when it is cleaned out, these dopes are coming out, and this is contributing to the environment. And I will say now the technologies are evolving. New latest technologies are evolving to minimize the identified environmental impact. I'll just share that this application of dope on the pipes has been now recently, since 2 years back, there's a technology developed known as dopeless technology. While manufacturing of the pipes in the steel mills, they apply a transparent coating itself on the thread. So this uh, removes the complete application of dope in the field activity, thereby making this process completely eliminating. The dope application process is getting eliminated, and the environmental impact happened with this dope application is also getting eliminated. So this is one of the technology evolved recently. So this is just to make you aware about this. So slowly, but in every area of the oil and gas sectors, technology is coming up. As I said, every day, some or other things are coming out. Challenges are because the picture itself clearly speaks, the way the impact is taking place, the spillages on the land. The next slide, please. The aquatic animals, you see the tortoise, the birds, and how it is the impacting. So in a similar fashion, if you see the bottom picture, there is an oil spillage took place in the offshore, and you can see air bubbled canvassing pipes were used to contain that particular area, so that the oil will not get spread across the other areas of the water. So this is one of the technologies getting used in case the oil spillage occurred in the offshore activity. Next slide, please. Next. See now, if you now we seen the impact. Now if you see the how environmental management is getting adopted within the industry. Now most of the oil and gas industries is now adopting the integrated management system. As we all know, when we say the integrated management system, it's a combination of quality, it's a combination of environment, it's a combination of health, and it's a combination of safety. So all these three systems getting integrated and addressed together, so that at a single time, what are the impact has been identified, it has been minimized to a great extent. So, but it involves both at the individual organization level as well as with the respective government of the each countries. Next slide, please. Environmental protection measures. See, as I said, exploration drilling, it takes place at offshore, drilling and production onshore. I think one slide got jumped. Can you go to the previous slide? Previous slide. Previous slide.
So,
Yep. Previous slide. I think it's the slides got. Yeah. Now come to the next slide. Yeah.
so we have exceeded the timer zone, and
Okay. Okay. You can. Okay. I can finish it off.
can we
See,
request
now, yeah.
you to do a quick conclusion on this?
Yeah. See, now as we all seen what are the impacts took place, now the oil and gas industry is now most of the majority of the industry within the oil and gas now working towards the integrated management system by involving all the four elements that is quality, environment, safety, and occupational health, so that at a given opportunity of time everything is getting addressed, to minimize the impact on the environment and other respected areas. Technologies are evolving every day, and it has been addressed, and it has been carefully implemented, and as and when required, any revisions or any procedural changes required based on any incident or based on any standard revisions, it has done on an immediate fashion manner, so that to prevent any sort of uneven situations. As I told in the beginning itself, that this is a very vast subject itself. I can go and speak with one full day, but given the time frame, I'm sorry to that I cannot able to cover. And once again, my sincere thanks and gratitude to the ICS and my good friend Dr. Sudesh Sharma for giving the opportunity to showcase the subject itself. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the valuable insights. It is a great pleasure to present you with a small memento. Please accept the token of appreciation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With this, the forum is now open for discussions. The esteemed members of the panel are Dr. Sundar Kataria, Shri Gaurang Das Prabhuji, Ms. Deepa Karnik, Dr. Madhu Nathani, Mr. Gajendra Jajpuria, Mr. Anand Menon, Mr. Dilip Negi, and Ms. Aanchal Jhavria, who I would request to moderate the session. We would be taking you through the questions from the chat.
Thank you, everyone. Without wasting the time, let's go straight to the question. The first question is asked to Prabhuji. I think Prabhuji is not there right now. No? He is not there. Then we can move to the next question. There are the various laws being laid down, but due to the can you 1 second? Yes. Yes, please. Achal, ma'am, you are taking? Filal cover. Ma'am, you have mentioned that there are the various laws laid down, but due to non-implementation of these laws, mining, illegal trees, forest cutting, plastic, polythene, and all these things, we are unable to stop. Can you have your opinion about this?
Actually, the implementation is really a problem in our country. So, in this notification, they have laid down the post-clearance monitoring, post-clearance submissions for the half-yearly, 6 monthly half-yearly report to the regional offices. But at present, there is no penalty laid down for this. So in draft notification, they have said that there will be a day-wise penalty. The penalty is very heavy penalty. So maybe that is one of this notification has given this. But other like tree cutting, the illegal tree cutting, even in corporations. For the tree cutting, we have to take 3 NOCs. But after that, if we actually do not plant the trees for the compensatory plantation or nobody is laying down the any penalties or some maybe punishment for this. So if at all it is in the ambit of this notification, that is maybe useful thing. And regarding the impact of availability of less land, mainly in urban areas. So for that, these special studies like shadow analysis or wind analysis are being now insisted by the various state committees, mainly in Maharashtra, mainly in Mumbai. So if actually that is followed meticulously pre-design stage, then because of less land, the impacts like shadow analysis and wind analysis can be mitigated if the actual study is done and this design is prepared based on this. And regarding water scarcity, already there are some movements like rainwater harvesting compulsory put in the as a condition. Whether it is being done or not, maybe एक टैंक बना देते हैं लेकिन वो यूज होता है कि नहीं वो टैंक का पानी जस्ट एक पड़ा रहेगा और उसमें फिर मस्किटो और ये ब्रीडिंग होता रहेगा. तो वो एक है रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग, देन सीवेज
Hello.
ट्रीटमेंट. Nowadays, even for the project which don't require environmental clearance, they are making compulsory for the sewage treatment, at least for grey water treatment and its reuse. Definitely get down the usage of fresh water. But again, the problem is implementation by the project proponents and occupants. Then, what is the scope amount of impact assessment?
Ma'am,
Huh. Hello?
okay, we'll take this session again, ma'am. We'll now take a question which has come for Dr. Madhu Nathani. Sushma, can we have the question, please? Ma'am, there's a question. I have found more fluoride in groundwater in Sobhadra district in Uttar Pradesh. It has been also found where fellow area barren ground is available. As per my knowledge, it is more harmful than the other elements except arsenic and nitrate. How these elements can be removed? Contaminated water can be purified through filter only, or there are any other permanent solutions available to purify the contaminated water?
The fluoride concentration in groundwater in Sonbhadra district of Uttar Pradesh. Yes, this question is from Ankit Mishra. Ankit, actually fluoride is not only caused because of only industrial or any other activity like the disposal or direct disposal from the industries. It is also through the rocks, parent rocks, because it is present in the old rocks which are actually the parent rocks, and it just seep down to the groundwater. That is again a cause, but in India the major cause is, of course, industries are also there, but the natural concentration is also maintained because of the rock seepage. Secondly, your question is, it can be purified by the simple filter? No, not at all, because the filters which we use, the RO plants, simple ROs, costing 9 to 10,000 or 15,000 like that, they are not suitable if they are only having the carbon chips, the activated charcoal. For that, there should be ion exchange method, that is the resins, or the alumina should be there. Activated alumina should be there. But the cost is too high for that. For the local people, like the middle class people, it's very difficult to get. So the remedy is possible. We can just stop the use of the fluoride toothpaste first of all, because fluoride is also present in the toothpaste and any other things which we are using for the cleaning purpose, especially because it is through the mouth we are using. First of all, it can be stopped, or ion exchange or resin methods are only possible. No permanent extraction is possible. Second question is the figures and data. Yes, we are really the sleeping citizens. We are really. And somewhere, according to my experience, I'm saying, yes, government too is not paying any heed. See, I'm not anti-governmental, not policy maker, but still I'm saying our government is also sleeping. As a layman, one question is there, as a layman, how can I do that? Yes, of course, if you ask for the right to information, that Constitution has provided us. Get the norms of the WHO or the Indian standards. Just ask them to give the water quality measures which they are supplying to us, surface water, whatever qualities are there, they will give you the groundwater, surface water, and potable water, which they are supplying to us. They are having each and every physiochemical parameter with us, except metals. That they are not. But if you can ask them, they are ready to give you the RTI, that is the right to information, and through that you can raise your voice. In my area, I raise my voice as a PhD student only. See, I am always latecomer for that. I did my PhD in 50s. I raise my voice for the deepening of the dams in my area, because I compared two dams in my area. One is a Tapar, which is supplying water to the Gandhidham and nearby areas, and another is also there in a very small village. So when I compared the surface water quality of these two and just approached the media, that is newspaper, they wrote an article on 20, I'm not mistaken, it is 26th June 2016. Now the work is started after 5 years. De rahe durust hai, kuch to hua, but I raised my voice. So this is what we can do through the RTI, right to information, and we have to raise to the NGOs. And of course, the power plants are emitting mercury. That still I have not tested. In XRF, I have this option to test, still the research is going on. Cadmium, chromium, and nickel level is very, very high, approximately. See, if the recommended is 0.5 ppm, I am getting in 200 to 300 also. And if I take the dilution factor of the soil, it will be 4 times of that. Nickel is the cause of the skin problems, and really the dermatologists are minting money because of it. And we don't have any other option, because for the hygienes we are less scared about the water. Chromium is there in these plants, means power plants, and especially the steel plants also. Nearby areas, the chromium and the cadmium level is also very high.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. That was really quite enlightening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
We
much.
have questions for Mr. Jaipuria ji now. Mr. Jaipuria ji, what are the main environmental impacts identified for new nuclear power projects in your EIA?
Okay. See, as I covered in my talk, that our nuclear power plants are located in the very remote site, and the surrounding area, people who has to be having a social economic condition is very poor. So this is the point which we have taken up as a improvement. We want to do it, and that is already covered in our CSR scheme, as well as now new guidelines have come, that is EIA, that is environment. Also we have to improve it, and we have to keep certain budget for that purpose also. So major impact is basically what we have identified is the social economic only.
Thank you, sir. There's another question that we have is, people feel that public hearing for government projects is just an eyewash. Since the government is the project promoter itself, all government machinery ensures that somehow the formality of hearing is rushed through. Eventually, clearance has been pre-decided. What would be your comments on this, sir?
I do not agree what the comment has come from the questionnaire. See, the process of public hearing is seriously taken, and all the concern raised are answered properly in our EIA document. It is covered. So saying eyewash, I do not agree for that thing. I do not agree. And as far as the question says here, what are the main concern expressed by the public during hearing. See, for a nuclear power project, after this incidents, what has happened all over the Japan incident, people are very concerned about the safety, and environmentalist is concerned about the environmentally are concerned about the like in Kaga, what we have faced from environmentalists, we are going to spoil that tiger which is there, tiger reserve, we will spoil, and that has been answered properly, and we have applied for this wildlife clearance also, although 4 units are already in operation and nothing has happened so far, which is causing that concern. So this is my answer. This is not an eyewash. It is properly heard the things and properly recorded. I do not take.
I would also support Mr. Jaipuria because I have been also looking forward for EIA last 25 years. And we have seen actually, there is a in 25 years time, a lot of things have developed in the department, government thinking, and they are also worried about the public health, environment. That is important. I don't think there is any shortcut. If there are any significant is there, so there are the ways to overcome. Like this now, there is a requirement all over the our major projects, oil and gas or nuclear, you have to have green belt. And this is a very large belt, taking care of such eventually. Thank you.
Sir,
Thank
may,
you, Dr.
may I
Kataria.
ask you one thing, little sir? May I one thing? See what happens when you come with such big projects, you have to either clear the forest or the green belt, whatever it is. There is you have the mechanism of doing the valuation of this area, this forest land or whatever it is. Basically, the data, the valuation method, what is adopted there in these reports is the outdated. The cost of forest you have covered, the cost of green belt you have covered, the cost of coastal area you have covered. How you do the costing of this?
Yes,
Anybody-
question is for me to answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you repeat the question? Costing of?
Basically, the costing when you acquire the land or forest land or
Correct.
coastal area for any project, how you do the costing of that?
That estimates are prepared in advance, and for that the financial sanctions are obtained, and the estimations are prepared based on the inputs obtained.
Not feasible.
But as far my knowledge is that the methodology of that estimation is outdated.
It's not like that. Estimation is outdated. The inputs are taken from all the relevant sources like forest costing for the forest and other things, and informations are updated. I don't agree for that. I think it is outdated.
So recently, the fire took place in the Uttarakhand, and there was a
Okay.
huge forest losses there. And the
Okay.
report which the government has published,
Hmm.
that the cost of the damage they are showing is just peanut. I don't recollect the figure right now, but it's a very low cost.
That fact I do not know about what you are telling. I'm not aware about that thing. But the costing at the time of estimation is for obtaining the financial clearance of the project. Whereas net present value of the forest is given by the forest department only, as I told in my presentation also. And that value has to be deposited by a department. So costing is getting it done through the forest official only.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jaipuria sir.
Thank you.
The next question is for Mr. Anand Menon. Anand Menon ji, in our country it is much more strict as compared to India. What is in your opinion on comparison of environment and implementation between India and your country?
First of all, I'll just put this question rearrange. your country. I am from India only. Okay. And just I am only put my initial 10 years in the country only. Rest of my journeys are out of the country. So, see, currently I am located in the Republic of Azerbaijan. This is one of the CIS countries, ex-USSR, Russian country. And this is one of the country where no oil and gas reserves rich country. Here also, every day one or other inputs on the global scenario within the oil and gas industry, what takes place. Every area of the oil and gas industry, that includes environmental protection also. The law is there. Okay. And to start any project within the oil and gas industry, you have to take an environmental clearance and all sort of things, where you have to give the data like what is the project area you are going to perform, how much time period you are going to use it, how much time period you will be going for the exploration and production, and after that what will be the layover time, and then after that from how you are going to be for the distribution activity. So each and every aspect there is, and to be very honest, very stringent law. Okay. And each and every parameters, even for small things, you have to get a clearance, and there will be an audit takes place, appraisals takes place, and then only you will get the ultimate clearance. Okay. To start a oil and gas industry also, whether it is an exploration production activities, but the government will support you with the infrastructure requirements and all sort of things. So more or less, I say it is similar to India, means our country. Here also, it is in the same page. That is what I put forward on this question. The second is on the offshore oil spillages, which cause.
I'll read it out, sir. We have seen so many offshore oil spillages which have caused major damage to the marine environment and the seashores as well. How do we prevent this, and how effective is the bacterial treatment for oil spillage?
Yes, as I said in my slides, oil spillages is one of the major contributing factor from the oil and gas industry, especially in the offshore activities. Okay, when unplanned activities goes on, or some pressure buildup, or some natural calamities takes place, the oil spillages is obvious. There are, as I shown in one of my in the slides, one of the pictures where the oil spillage is contained with canvas pipings, air pressured canvas piping, so that the oil, the spillage will is not moved to the other areas of the seabed. So in a similar fashion, there are certain more technologies are there, but it's all depend upon what is the coverage area the oil spillage has occurred. And a small area may be sufficient enough, like bacterial treatment. It may, but it may not be the case with the large oil spillage. Bacterial treatment, I'm not came across much towards the oil spillage when this treatment is getting used, because as we all seen in the past that the oil spillage is in a very vast way, it's happening. It may be stands valid for the onshore activities, onshore oil spillages which takes place. What are the additional EIA requirements for the offshore oil fields?
EIA requirements for offshore facilities than onshore oil fields.
See, it's all, you have to submit a complete the details of your project. What's the project? The main thing is the time factor. What will be the time you will going to have the exploration activities? Because it starts from seismic activities. You have to survey the land or the offshore where the potential opportunities of oil and gas reserves are there. Starts from there. Once From there, then exploration takes place, drilling phase takes place, and then production takes place. In each phase, you have to address to the concerned government authorities with what you identified, what is the time frame, what is the potential impact you are identified prior to the start of the project, what is your contingency plan, how you going to mitigate it. This all has to be laid down. It's based upon the time factor. It's based upon the area you are going to cover for your ENP activities. That is the only additional EIA what we are seeing in the oil. And rest of the other EIA is similar to the chemical industries what we are encountering in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We have a list of questions and the list is never ending. The session has been so informative and the questions are just coming up one by one. But looking into the time consideration, we'll have to close this session here. Thank you, sir. There are various unanswered questions, but each question will be answered. All unanswered questions shall follow an answer in our souvenirs. So you can put up more questions also and we can do it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for this informative seminar.
Thank you very much.
A very big thank you to all our esteemed panel members who have addressed to the queries of our guests, delegates, and students. I would now like to call upon Ms. Aanchal Chhabria, General Manager in Costing and Business Continuity, ICS. Aanchal ji has qualified as a postgraduate in commerce with specialization in business administration and is also a lead auditor for QMS. Her areas of specialization include business sustainability, financial management, talent acquisition, training and development, system documentation, and leadership and motivation. I would request now Aanchal ji to take us through this quick recap of today's session. Ma'am, we cannot hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, delegates and eminent speakers. We have come to the closing of day 2 of Paryavartan. It has been an honor to be among such accomplished individuals. An evening filled with such lively audience and intellectual speakers, which we all feel should not come to an end. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to be entrusted with such an undertaking at a gathering of such eminent people from different parts of the industry, society, the environment saviors of tomorrow. As with all such events, and this seminar has been an outstanding example, our minds have been assailed by a torrent of ideas, information, statistics, interpretations and visions, and it will probably be a day or two before we can sift through them all and consolidate our own personal perspectives. There is indeed plenty to reflect upon, and if this in any way enhances our individual and collective contributions to meeting the global environment challenges, then the seminar can truly be adjudged a success. As we have heard over the past 2 days, there is a plenty of work to be done to meet the global needs of generations to come, and the industry must ensure at all times that the world's precious reserves are taken care of and we are able to nurture this Mother Earth who has been nourishing us. I would first like to thank Shri Gauranga Das Prabhuji, spiritual motivational leader, ISKCON, and I'm inspired with the Govardhan Eco Village, which you all would agree, which connects the society with environment spiritually and acts as a center for holistic learning, helping to unfold a new human consciousness and create a positive and sustainable future. Karnik ma'am, your paper on environment clearance for residential, commercial and industrial projects have enhanced our knowledge on various EIA regulations and how an effective EIA helps in better monitoring and control. I shall always remember the 3 P's: planet, people and profit. Dr. Madhu Nathani, thank you so much. was a great pleasure being with you, to have you with us and share your expertise on the environmental aspects due to industrialization. It was really surprising for all of us to know about the amount of water being consumed by each individual, which we never thought of, and the cost per liter involved in its purification. The various factors of industrial waste that lead to water, soil, air pollution, and are harmful for mankind. Thank you, ma'am. Jaipuria ji, sir, we thank you for your guidance on the environment management in nuclear power plant in India and the information on the various clearance procedures applicable at various phases. It was really very informative, sir. Thank you. We would also like to thank Mr. Anand Menon, who took us through the environmental aspects and impacts in the oil and gas industry and how oil, gas, fuel, other hazardous spillage can affect our oceans and our marine ecosystem. Lastly, would like to conclude that increasing level of industrialization has countless harmful effects on the atmosphere because of the poisonous chemical emissions and dangerous wastage drainage in the big water resorts such as Yamuna, Ganga and other rivers. The ever-changing negatively environment is not the issue of only some countries or government. It is the issue of the whole human fraternity, because we all are the reason of this negatively declining environment. So we all are responsible to save our natural environment for the healthy survival of life on the earth. Let's join in together to save it. Don't let Mother Nature become once upon a time. Thank you. Over to you, Arya ji.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking us through the entire session. Now comes the most awaited part of the session, the quiz time. We would first present you through the demo quiz, wherein you will get accustomed to how to go about this. Before we start the quiz, we would like to announce yesterday's winner, Mr. Sangu M. Congratulations, Mr. Sangu. You would be presented with 4 questions on the screen. Each would have multiple choice answers, out of which one is the correct answer. We need to answer all 4 questions together, either horizontally or vertically. Like the first question here says, which is, okay. We will take you through the quiz. Question 1 says, desalinization can be defined as accumulation of salts in the body, accumulations of salt in water, accumulations of salt in animals, accumulation of salt in the soil. Question 2, the main reason for blueness of the sky is due to the presence of water vapor, due to the absorption of blue light due to air, due to the scattering of sunlight by air molecules. None of these. The yellowness of Taj Mahal is the effect of acid rain, allergens, ozone depletion, none of the above. Question 4, the part of the plant that evaporates water is fruit, stomata, root, none of the above. Please put your answers in the chat box. All 4 questions answered together. All 4 answers together. So the time is up. Can we have the right answers on the screen, please? Okay, the correct answer is now on the screen. Question 1, D. Question 2, C. Question 3, A. Question 4, B. So as we have seen, the winners would be awarded. We have now reached the end of the session of day 2. We hope today's session has broadened our perspectives and given each one of us an immense knowledgeable takeaway. Let me remind you all, tomorrow is a poem competition. So please put on your philosophical caps and pen down your thoughts for the environment and upload in your login. A big thank you to all present here this evening and giving us your valuable time. We will be right here tomorrow at 5 p.m. sharp with a new day and new insights on standard, legal, and regulatory updates. Goodbye for today. Stay safe. Good night.
Hari 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 Vasundhara Neela Neela ye gagan Neela Neela ye gagan हरी हरी वसुंधरा पे नीला नीला ये गगन कि जिस पे बादलों की पालकी उड़ा रहा पवन दिशाएं देखो रंग भरी दिशाएं देखो रंग भरी चमक रही उमंग भरी ये किसने फूल फूल पे ये किसने फूल फूल पे किया सिंगार है ये कौन चित्रकार है ये कौन चित्रकार ये कौन चित्रकार है ये कौन चित्रकार है ये कौन चित्रकार तपस्वियों सी हैं अटल ये पर्वतों की चोटियां ये सर्प सी घुमेरदार घेरदार घाटियां ध्वजा से ये खड़े हुए ध्वजा से ये खड़े हुए हैं वृक्ष देवदार के गलीचे ये गुलाब के बगीचे ये बहार के ये किस कवि की कल्पना ये किस कवि की कल्पना का चमत्कार है ये कौन चित्रकार है ये कौन चित्रकार ये कौन चित्रकार है ये कौन चित्रकार है ये कौन चित्रकार कुदरत भारत की इस पवित्रता को तुम निहार लो। इसके गुणों को अपने मन में तुम उतार लो। चमका लो आज लालिमा, चमका लो आज लालिमा अपने ललाट की। कण कण से झांकती तुम्हें छवि विराट की। अपनी तो आंख एक है, अपनी तो आंख एक है, उसकी हजार है। ये कौन चित्रकार है, ये कौन चित्रकार, ये कौन